Hello and welcome back to Talk Seagulls, and we're back at Earth and Stars again, and that has been probably one of the longest setups we've ever had to do. I've got Matthew, what should I call you? I'll call you Matt for the sake of it, right? We've got Matt O'Reilly on the podcast, ladies and gentlemen.
Just not quite as good looking.
Nice to have you on, mate. How are you feeling?
Been a pleasure. Pretty good. Great to be here.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I mean, it's on the back of a very good result, actually. It's nice to have a bit of a change in scenery when we're actually not in a bad way, because we had a couple of episodes recently where I've been trying to find positives and trying to find like nice little moments to bring out of things, and it's been difficult. But no, it's good to have you on. And I mean, how are you feeling at the minute? I mean, we've got 2 games left. We're on the back of obviously a very, very nice win away from home at Wolves in that 2-0 fashion, but it's still anyone's, isn't it? It's still us or Brentford, really.
Yeah, to be honest, I think it's completely out of our hands. And we can only look at ourselves. You think of the Wolves, Leicester games, that sort of November, December period where we were just drawing and losing every week. And it was games that we should have been winning as well.
Yeah.
And obviously recently we've been on a not great run at all. So we've only got ourselves to blame. And in a fight, you have to always be looking at yourselves and what you didn't do rather than hoping for Brentford to slip up.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it feels like we're in a bit of that scenario right now. You know, when you look at Brentford, obviously, they're flying, right? And it's difficult when you look at the table and you have to keep sort of looking back on other teams to hope that they sort of slip up. And it's not necessarily in our hands like maybe we would have liked it to be. But regardless of any other analysis, this is probably the most important 2 games of the season. I mean, it's really going to go down to the wire by the looks of it.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, we've got to hope that Liverpool are going to be on the beach a little bit. I saw a video of Arne's Slot. I don't know if you saw it.
Going around the pub.
It feels like they're already maybe there for the taking, do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I don't think they're particularly great, especially second half against Arsenal. I don't know if you watched that game. But it's Liverpool.
Yeah.
They're top of the Premier League for a reason.
Yeah.
And they've still got sort of passion to play for, if not anything else.
Not for Trent.
Not for Trent, indeed.
He got booed all the way.
I think that's a bit weird, if I'm honest.
Yeah,
I think,
a weird one.
Yeah, but here to talk about Brighton. So.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, for sure. I just think it's a bit of a difficult one for me to predict because Liverpool, they're a cracking side, but yeah, I'd like to hope they're on the beach a little bit. Spurs, obviously, I didn't realise actually how bad they were down in 17th. I didn't realise they were that close to sort of relegation. It's insane. It's just nuts, lucky for them that Ipswich and stuff are, nowhere near good enough to catch up with them.
It's embarrassing, honestly, that them and United are
it's mad, isn't
finalists in the Europa League. To think that we finished 11th last year and we got knocked out in round of 16, wasn't it?
Yeah, round of 16. But then to be fair, we had Roma, who at the time were absolute powerhouse in that competition. But yeah,
we've got some good sides there. Bodo Glimt are a good side. But I mean, Tottenham made them look like Norwegian fishermen. And I don't know what they do in Norway. And Bilbao are a good side, and they've played some good sides along the way as well. Lyon, but it's just a complete embarrassment to English football, really, how they've done all that and they're 16th and 17th.
Yeah, I know. It is mad. It is really weird. But again, their focus is going to be on Europe, right? So you would imagine they probably wouldn't really care about a defeat at Brighton. I mean, they struggled against Palace, didn't they, at the weekend? So they're certainly there for the taking. But we'll zoom in a little bit more on Brighton at the moment because, that last game just gone. It was a very good one, I thought. Actually, where I've been quite critical, particularly on this podcast, about tactically, I thought there was a game plan. I could see what we were trying to do. I could see we're trying to, at the intensity that we like to be told about Fabian Hurtzler's football. I thought it was there. I thought we could see a lot of players all playing for the right reasons. And I thought, okay, we're on side with what we're trying to do in this game for a start. So it's a bit different to what we've been used to, right? We weren't trying to completely control the game, and the players that we put in, Matt Weaver, for example, Matt O'Reilly, Yassin Ayari, Carlos Baleba, a lot of players there that can absolutely match up to the midfield that Wolves put out.
Yeah, and again, like you said, the game plan was executed perfectly. We were pressing straight from the off and the intensity was there. Everything was there. To be honest, when we had the ball, I thought the passing was really, really sloppy. I don't know.
It was. I thought we played pretty well. I thought, yeah, okay, maybe the passing. The thing is, right, this is what we've got to accept. Our passing isn't going to play like through the middle, sort of expansive football. That's not what we do now, right? So I have to bear that in mind when I say we played well. I look at it as, say, we played well in what we went out to do, and I thought that was quite intense football. I thought we matched up to Wolves quite well. I thought we executed, as I said, that game plan well. And I knew that Wolves would try and dictate the way of play. I thought Vitor Pereira's football was probably a bit more possession-based. They're going to try and utilise those players that they got in midfield, try and get the ball out to Cunha as their outball, which did work at times, I've got to say. But I thought Cunha didn't get the better of Matt Sweefer for the best of the game. And I thought the players that we actually put on that pitch to begin with, I thought, okay, at least we're actually trying to do something about this. We're trying to put a bit more physicality into that side.
Yeah.
I thought I saw that.
Yeah, definitely. And don't forget, this is also a Wolves side that have won 5-6 on the bounce
exactly,
as well.
Yeah. And Molyneux as well.
We made them look rubbish, honestly. For a large amount of the second half, it was just Wolves passing around the back and us pressing and trying to force turnovers, and that worked very well. Obviously, we won the penalty from pressing high, and Weaver winning the penalty, and he was excellent. And it's so good to see. As someone who watched Weaver at Feyenoord last year, he could be one of the best sort of sixes, DMs, anchors, whatever you want to call him, in Europe, because we saw his duel winning is top class, and there's a reason that clubs like Atleti were after him, and even just I was shocked, to be honest, that we got him in the first place.
Didn't Liverpool want him when they signed Arne Slot as well?
There was rumours flying around, and you'd understand it given how Slot and Weaver were together at Feyenoord. But no, I don't think there was actually much legs in that at all. But it's so good to see him doing well.
Yeah.
I mean, look, he is a midfielder, and I'd like to see him there going forward.
He seemed to invert a little bit more as well. I can see that he likes to. I thought particularly in that first half, he liked to rotate with Lamptey, which was quite handy actually, having an actual right back on the pitch in Tariq Lamptey, because we could bring him back a little bit when we needed to. Weaver's very capable of going forward. I didn't realise just how good he was actually at striding forward. I think we saw that, as you say, for that goal. That second ball, the touch that who was it that received the ball right at the edge of the box? I can't even remember who it was now. It was Cunha, wasn't it?
Wolves player, yeah.
Cunha brought him down for the penalty. And it was it's a pretty awful ball, to be honest, but it came from that press that we wanted to see from him.
Yeah.
When you talk about Weaver back in Feyenoord days, because I quite like the fact you said that, what did you see in Matt Weaver before he signed for Brighton?
For starters, when we have played him in midfield, he's been very sort of one-touch, two-touch, similar to Yasin Ayari in a way. He's a dictator, if that makes sense. Just controls things at his pace. And that's also why we've chucked him on in sort of 80th and in midfield, just to sort of control things and slow things down. But his duel winning is second to none, really.
Yeah.
I think he made 9 tackles, 9 duels, whatever it was. And that was, I think, the most or joint most in our Premier League history for a midfielder or whatever it was. I don't know the full stat, but it's just a monster class, honestly. It's, again, so good to see him doing well, especially after all the unfair criticism he was given in the reverse fixture, of course, as well.
Yeah, it was in the reverse fixture. It's funny. It's funny how it all comes back around, isn't it? I feel like Matt Weaver becoming good now is a bit of a redemption in the right way. It's poetic justice. It's what you want to see, really, because, as you say, he was so significant in that Feyenoord side. And Arne Slot, very, very prominent under Arne Slot's team, that we all know how good Slot has been in the Premier League. We knew how good he was over in the Eredivisie. It's not a surprise to see him now doing well in what he does best. And I think, as you say, I would like to see him in midfield a little bit more, don't get me wrong. When we've got that capability to bring Veltman back, maybe next season we have a little bit more squad depth defensively. I'd like to see during the summer window. I think if we can keep hold of Carlos Baleba, I'd absolutely love to see what they can do in I don't want to say double pivot, because it seems a little bit naive to suggest a double pivot with Fabian Hertzler's tactics, but somewhat equivalent. To see both of them together, I think, could be monstrous, to be honest.
Yeah, I've seen some sort of ideas and theories floating around that we could transition to a 3 next season. And
Hertzler played a 3, didn't he, at St. Pauli?
Yeah, exactly. And I've seen people talking about how Weaver could be that sort of middle centre-back who went into midfield. in possession. I think he'd suit that very well.
That's actually, do you know what? Quite a funny shout, because I was only saying a couple of episodes about Hutzler's style of play that we maybe didn't get to see from St. Pauli.
Yeah.
And his style of play was very obscure, probably, in that he liked to empty midfield, etc., etc.
Yeah.
We know the story by now. But one thing we didn't see when he came over to the Premier League was probably that formation. And whether that's down to the fact of, defensively, we don't probably have a solid back three that you could rely on week in, week out. Webster's obviously very injury prone, although I think he would be capable in a back three. Lewis Dunk, for obvious reasons, has a bit of injury problems. Van Hecker would be fine, I think. And Igor, he's had his injury problems as well, to be honest. Cashin, life's biggest mystery. So defensively, we don't have a great deal of players available for that back three. So maybe that's what you could see next season for Hutzler, do you think?
Yeah, and I also think the part of the reason why we haven't sort of seen the best of Fabian Hutzler's football system, whatever you want to say, is because I think he just wanted to come in and continue what De Zerbi had sort of left off, if that makes sense, and sort of build around the squad rather than to his ideas, if that sort of adds up.
Well, it's true. I mean, when it comes to recruitment, we know that Tony Bloom won't recruit players based on who's in charge of the club at the time. Whether the manager's there or not, they will recruit the players they want to recruit, and that's just how it is. So that's maybe a little bit of a surprise to Hutzler, perhaps. Maybe it was a bit of rightly or wrongly, we don't recruit enough centre-backs. Personally, on the fence a little bit, thinking, you can blame the club, but I'm probably more on the club side when you think there wasn't a great deal of availability for centre-backs during that summer transfer window to go and actively go and make something happen. I know we've seen a few links coming into this summer, which is a lot more encouraging anyway. But saying that, I do think Cashin is a really weird signing if you're not even going to use him. But at the same time, I do kind of get why they haven't gone and just splashed out on centre-backs. It's an argument that is quite contradictory based on the fact we bought in Cashin in January, to be honest.
And I think even in that sort of Aston Villa cameo, he was terrible. But you can see... Sorry, Aaron. Aaron. Sorry, I butchered his name and slandered him. And had a voice crack.
The talk seagulls effect, ladies and gentlemen.
But you can see when he was on the ball, he wants to bring the ball out of defence. He wants to pass through lines. And it's very clear to see the sort of profile of centre-back that we are wanting to bring in, especially with the Boskagli being linked as well. He's sort of a line-breaking, very good ball-playing centre-back. Yes, they had questions over his actual defensive ability. I was watching Feyenoord PSV yesterday or 2 days ago. And he was caught out quite a lot. So I think we need sort of a mix of athletic and line breaking progression centre back.
The Levi Colwill probably that we missed out on.
I
think the Levi Colwill profile will forever, and this is maybe my unpopular opinion to Brighton fans nowadays, but I just do think he's probably one of the most underrated players now in hindsight.
I do.
Because we said it at that thing the other day. I think that his overall profile would be so perfectly suited. He was so perfectly Brighton. And I remember during the lockdown, do you remember when Potter liked to play three at the back, sorry. And I think it was White, Webster and Dunk. And that as a back three at the time, when Webster was so good at progressing forward, he was a bit younger, his legs were not giving up on him quite so much as they are now. Poor ankles and Adam, right? And the same with Lewis Dunk. He was more than capable to play 90 minutes every single week. And Ben White was a bit of a breath of fresh air, to be honest, coming back from his Leeds loan. When we bought him off Leeds, should I say. And
free Ben
White. So when he come back, that complement, it was such a dynamic back three. And it actually created a lot of chances simultaneously with sort of how we like to overload midfield, which is quite similar to actually what Hutzler could do. Obviously, De Zerbi changed it when he went back four again, and we were a lot more traditionalist, perhaps. The build-up was still fluid, but we're a bit more traditionalist and actually putting wingers on the pitch, which was a lovely change. Seeing March and Mitoma, it was unbelievable. And I think we could have a similar sort of effect now with Minte and Mitoma. You could almost make a bit of a hybrid out of that. Anyway, I digress, but you get the point. As centre-backs are key nowadays, and I think I saw a piece on the Overlap talking about no one wants to see centre-backs being the most touches, most passes in the Premier League. And whilst I get the narrative, right, of course you want to see your Steven Gerrards and as the most touches in the Premier League. You want to see Frank Lampard having the most touch. Your goal-scoring midfielders having the most touches, most passes. But I don't actually agree with it. I actually think that football, if it was played perfectly, having centre-backs playing and passing through lines, etc., creates almost more chances, more opportunities. I think it makes football more entertaining to watch when it works. It just doesn't. It's become a little bit difficult to always balance.
Yeah, and I mean, even I don't know if you remember that Sheffield United side that had sort of overlapping centre backs.
Mate, the wide centre backs thing.
Yeah, it was good watch. And our best football was often played with our back four, with Dunk and the midfield as well. Gross, McAllister, Caicedo, whoever we had there. It was just I said it at the time, but we made it look like FIFA.
Yeah,
the way we so easily played around the back, baiting the press, just the quick, fluid football. That's what people want to see at the end of the day. Just good football.
Yeah, I agree. I think good football is what you want. Like, it is the pinnacle of what you want to see in terms of entertainment. And that's what surprised me about the piece on the overlap. I thought, I get the point. Yes, okay, you want to see these good players scoring goals. You want to see them making unbelievable assists. But at the same time, I think being able to see a whole team play from back to front, for me, is what I absolutely love watching Brighton for.
Exactly. And I think we're more of a sort of transitional side and build out quickly rather than build out well, if that makes sense. We often saw 30, 40, 50, 60 passes in the De Zerbi move and the Potter move.
Gus Poyet as well, if you remember that. We did, at the end, we held the ball at the back a lot, but I thought, we were playing it's always been in the DNA of the club. That's what I personally, if I see Tony Bloom's name, I think of that postage stamp football. That is what his blueprint is.
And he always, just whenever he brings in a manager, he always wants them to sort of have or be innovative.
Yeah.
Because no one had really saw that style that De Zerbi played at the time. No one really had the sort of press baiting identity. And that's what made us so good in those opening couple of months. And teams were, they had no answer to it. I remember that the 4-1 Chelsea game, Potter just had no answer to it at all. And there was so much space in wide areas. And we were destroying teams, absolutely dismantling.
And we're getting, this is what I mean. This is why I was happy with the performance against Wolves.
Yeah.
I thought, because you're seeing now a bit more Huxtable, say. I actually saw exactly from start to finish, pretty much what he tried to do. All the substitutions worked really well. Shout out to Brian Gruder with the goal. I thought it was a great moment for him. Simon Adingra as well, silencing some haters with that pass through. I thought it was a nice little move. I'll be honest, I'll be critical of Simon as well. I think he's not had the best season, but again, it was a nice move. It was a nice goal, nice moment in general. And I thought, if we're gonna seriously start pushing ourselves forward for this European place, which, as we say rightly, is kind of out of our hands at this point, it'll be interesting to see how Brentford cope at the weekend. They got Fulham, haven't they?
Yeah.
Fulham are all but out of the race, right? I think they're pretty much ended it for themselves. I think if they were to beat Brentford, it'd probably be better for us than anything else.
Yeah.
We would want them to win that game, and then probably, obviously, beat Liverpool in the process.
The most inconsistent team, Fulham. They've had a great season, and Marcus Hill has done an exceptional job. But I can't see it. They've sort of got a nothing to play for mentality, especially with their fans on Twitter as well. It seems like that.
Yeah,
so,
this is the thing. This is right. Okay, do you think that Wolves were a bit on the beach as well, or not? Towards the end of the game?
Not really. I mean, Vitor Pereira's done a great job of coming in, and they weren't really in much relegation threat, to be honest.
Well, I think when they took over, they were in the relegation spots, I believe.
They might well have been, actually.
And I think when they took over, and I think they're like 20 points clear. I was speaking to Dave from Talking Wolves on his preview. It was very interesting, actually, as to how much they've drastically improved. So I was expecting quite a game. I was thinking, oh God, this could be tough. This could be the one where could almost end our season, sort of thing. Because as you say rightly, that winning run they're on was unbelievable. The impact he's had there has been unbelievable. And I thought they'd just sort of see out for the rest of the season. Go and sort of beat whoever's in front of them. But it really wasn't like that at all. I struggle to really remember, apart from 2 or 3 saves Bart made in the first half. Many chances that I really was that concerned about him, to be honest.
Yeah, Bart made one comfortable
save from outside the box from Cunha, I remember, and then he sort of pushed one out from a bit of a deflected cross from the left. I don't think there's too much else that really comes to note that they really could have hurt us with, which is a credit to both us, but also, where you look at Wolves and think, not quite at their best, probably.
Yeah, our defensive shape and our pressing, counter-pressing, all of that. It was just spot on, and they couldn't find a way to break us down. Maybe that's not really how they expected us to approach the game.
Yeah.
Since last couple of months, we've been more possession-based. I think that's also what Dunk brings as well. He's more patient in possession.
Yeah.
Whereas Webster, we saw it a bunch of times, he wants to pass into midfield and pass through lines and carry the ball. Whereas Dunk's much more of a passer and a distributor.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the thing. As we said, our side's almost a little bit, not weird, but everything's a little bit misaligned. I think I said it on the last episode, misalignment across everyone. And that's why it was interesting to see this game, because I felt like we finally got this stamp of, okay, this is what Hertzler's football is. And that's why I was really happy with it after the game. I was openly very, very full of praise, which I've had a lot of criticism this year of a lot of people calling me a plastic and not a real Brighton fan because I've criticised the team over the year. And it was interesting to see nobody mention the fact that I gave any praise whatsoever for the performance that we put in. But I thought, because when credit is due, I shall give it. Right? And I think that's what I saw in that game. I thought, okay, we're finally seeing what we can actually do with these players at our disposal. Matt Weaver, as I said, deserves the biggest shout out of the bunch because he was immense throughout the game. But Matt O'Reilly was also given a bit more of a free role, you'd probably say.
Yeah.
He was almost floating in between defence and attack. I thought he was picking up some nice positions, but I think of him as this like nice late arrival into the box, but it probably just doesn't have the finishing capabilities to make it count as much.
Yeah, there was one that Sarr just kicked one into midfield when it came to him, and it fell to O'Reilly, and we're all thinking, shoot.
Yeah.
I think that's a bit of a problem, if I'm honest, at the moment. With that has been with Gruder as well. It has been with a couple of players. I just don't think we're direct and as much of a potent threat as we could be, because we're always passing around the box and backwards when we should just be getting a ball in the box or shooting. That being said, we do have a bit of a problem with getting bodies in the box. You see Welbeck likes to drop in, and that leaves us with only 1-2 bodies in the box compared to Wolves 3 or 4, if you like. But I just don't think we're aggressive enough at times, if that makes sense.
No, I agree. That's why I think the counter press was so good to watch, because I thought, okay, we're finally sort of going back at a team rather than just sort of absorbing pressure and getting a little bit lack of confidence, probably, is what we've gone through recently as well, because it is a young squad, I can accept, and I think that's maybe what we see in this squad. I think Matt O'Reilly's, for example, as you say, that was it's a chance that you want to see buried. I think a player on form hits that first time and doesn't even think to hit it first time.
He had time, really. He could have taken a shot and a touch and then shot. He had Minte in space on his left. It's probably one of them ones where you're just caught in two minds. Yeah. And that was almost the same with Minte, because you see him take an awkward touch and then butcher it completely. Yeah.
Minte's ball to him, to be fair, I did feel a bit, because it was almost, he was never getting that under control. It didn't look like it was ever set at all. Yeah. And as you say, even second ball, I thought O'Reilly should have had a go. And again, that's probably just where you look at it and say, confidence, do you think? Because I thought actually the positions that O'Reilly was taking up was considerably more positive than I've seen in the past from him.
Definitely. And O'Reilly's been a little bit frustrating in the fact that he hasn't got the goals and assists that everyone expected him to, because you see that City game, we're expecting, he's going to come into the team and start, he's going to get goals, assists, gets injured again. Yeah. To be honest, with O'Reilly, I don't think he's played too badly at all. You can see he's trying to create, like, you watch him closely, the amount of through balls, wherever else he plays a game, he does contribute quite a bit, but because he's not the sort of shiny toy, if that's how best to describe him, he doesn't get the goals and assists, so not many people are going to see what he actually adds. He presses very well. That's one thing that's very good about him.
He does press well. I think I remember when we signed him from Celtic, a lot of Celtic fans were telling me about sort of what to expect from him. They actually did say the sort of goals and assists. I said that late arrival into the box was one of the biggest things. They always said, this is vintage O'Reilly. That goal against Manchester City, they said, was him all over at Celtic. He loved to sort of burst in at speed and then be there. He loved to put a chip into the box as well, back post sort of vibe. We probably haven't really seen that from him as much, but I do think you saw more joy out of him sort of playing a little bit freer when he's got a little bit more muscle behind him. Yeah. I think when you've got players like Carlos Baleba, Mats Wiefer that are actually being utilised a little bit more for him, I think you've got more of an overload in midfield. You know, I think taking out Wiefer from right back eventually is the move, because I think then you might enable him to have a little bit more opportunity and hopefully a few more goals, to be honest. 'Cause I think he's definitely earned one, I think, with some of the positions he takes up.
Yeah, and just his performances in general, to be fair. And yeah, like you say, next year, who knows what we're going to see with Wiefer as well. It could be a back three, it could be anything.
Yeah, I just love to see him sort of in that deeper lying playmaker vibe. You know, I want to see.
Me too.
I want to see him there. I want to see him not being the sort of first receiver. I think that's not him so much, but definitely that in between phase between defense and attack. I think what you saw with Wiefer, particularly in that game last time, is how good he is in the challenge. I think if we've got a bit of a mixture of that, playing alongside Carlos Baleba, who, as we know, can burst forward at any given moment. We know his physicality. We also know how good he is at shooting from the edge of the box. I think him, Matt O'Reilly, and Mats Wiefer all completely complement each other so well. I think if we can finally work out how to use them as a trio, I honestly do believe that is our best midfield. And I'm really sorry to say that at Yasin Ayari, by the way, who has had a good season. But I just do think that is a better combination sort of in terms of profile, I think.
And Gomez as well, and Yalcoy as well. I'd really like to see that's Yalcoy is one I'm big on, because I've watched a good amount of him at Sturm Graz this year.
What have you made of him, man? What have you made of him?
He's been stuck out wide quite a lot, and he doesn't really have the physical profile. But if we did lose Baleba this summer, it would be Wiefer and Yalcoy, because Yalcoy he has an unbelievable engine. He's everywhere, kind of like Baleba. And I saw a sort of tactics thread or a breakdown of Hertz's football, and there's a bit of a sort of anchors and floaters, it's called. So we have an anchor, such as Baleba, where he's sort of sat in one position, and we have Yasin Ayari or Gomez or Hinchwood, who pick up so many different positions. And I think that could be, if we did lose Baleba, it could be Wiefer and Yalco, who, as I say, will sort of pick up the ground that Baleba does. It's ground eating. He's sort of ground eater, Baleba. He'll get around the pitch so well. Yalco.
Interesting. So would you call him like a baby Inokwepu? Is that a fair way of describing him?
It's a bit difficult to profile Yalco, because some people are saying he's a Baleba replacement, when in reality he doesn't have the physical frame for it at all, and that's why he's been sort of played out wide. Sturm Graz have often used a 5. It's like a 5-3-2 or whatever it is, 5-4-1. But he's been given more of a free role. He gets around the pitch so well, as I say. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, it will be interesting for sure. I think that this is the thing. We've got such a good squad, not just here but out on loan. I do want to see Baleba stay for another season, if I'm honest.
I think he will.
I feel like he will as well. I think it's still a little bit soon to see him go, because as much as he is such a brilliant player, and I do honestly believe that he could have a better ceiling than that of Moises Caicedo or Yves Bissouma that were here in the past. I do think Baleba is a nice blend of the two, actually, and probably a little bit more, to be honest. But at the same time, he's very young. He's still got an ounce of naivety towards him. He's not the complete finished article, though he has had a very, very consistent season and rightly young player of the year. Arguably could have even won full player of the season, in my opinion, to be honest, for the fans' vote. I will touch on player of the season in a second. But Baleba all round is a perfect sort of match for most teams. But I still don't think that he's quite there yet. I actually think that he's got at least another year or two until he's probably ready to be competing, say, at a side like Manchester City, for example, or a big move. I don't think he's quite ready for that yet, personally.
Yeah, I think quite the opposite, to be honest, because I
Do you?
think he's at a better stage of his development than Moises Caicedo was when
Oh,
he left for
absolutely,
Chelsea.
yeah, absolutely.
So if he did go this summer, as Ornstein said, it's going to cost anyone more than an arm and a leg, just a full body at that point.
Whole new
and-
labour.
But if he does stay and we get another season out of him, we'll probably sell him at a cut price, I think.
Yeah.
Whereas we would have done the same with Moises Caicedo if he stayed on one more year.
Yeah, I agree. It would be interesting that because this is the thing. If we do get Europe this year, if we lose anybody going into next season, for me, it would just be such a shame to look at profit as opposed to potential, because we did it for the European season. We looked at profit when realistically, maybe we could have got another year, particularly out of Moises, possibly out of McAllister. I think fending off Liverpool was always going to be difficult because of how much they're obviously pushing for the Premier League this season and so on. So they're in that transition period from replacing Jurgen Klopp. I can understand the attraction to want to be a big part of that, and probably where McAllister was in his career was a little bit further ahead than Caicedo was at the time. However, the difference that made to us, on our selfish opinion, stop being so nice to these players all the time and start remembering they're our players and we need some help here, right? That season cost us. And then this season, obviously, we bring in so many players. The right thing to do now, I think, anyway, is build on what we've got already. Because if we don't do that, I would be very, very upset to then see next season turn into another transition, which I keep hearing the word to. And I'm going to use that as a question towards you, because I saw a lot of Brighton fans talking about it as a bit of a conversation thing on social media. And I wanted to bring it to light. Is there such thing as a transition season, in your opinion?
I think there's both sides to the argument. There's look, we spent 250 million, and a lot of people are going to see we spent 250 million on not just any random players. We spent them on talented young players who were sought after by a bunch of clubs. And then the other side of it is we spent 250 million because they'll be good in 2 or 3 years, and they'll be worth much more than that. And the resale value in these players will be a lot more as well. So I think there is such thing as a transitional season. And because we've got a manager that's previously coming to Brighton, he's only had 18 months managerial experience in professional football. I'm more on this is a transitional season, and we'll see the best out of players. Like we say, Weaver, Garuda, O'Reilly, all of everyone really next season.
I agree.
Or
I think
not even next season, just the seasons to come.
Yeah, transition seasons are difficult, right? Because it's always. I feel like the term transitional season only comes out when you're struggling. I think it only starts being a transitional season when everything's going wrong.
Yeah.
Unless at the beginning of the season you're in a position where you've lost an absolute bunch of players or whatever, and you're gonna think, okay, this is gonna be a struggle. We're gonna have to just put up with it or whatever. But we weren't probably in that situation. If anything, we're actually on the other side of that. I think you can have a transitional season, yes, but I think you can't use it just when. You have to use it throughout the entire thing. And for me, I don't think this was a transitional season, if I'm honest. I think this is a building season, which is a shame. But I think we've now got 2 games where we can effectively make that come to light. And I think I can't remember who put it on Twitter now, but someone put a tweet on saying, it doesn't matter what you think of the manager, it doesn't matter what you think of this season in general. All that matters is that we get this over the line now and we get behind them. Yeah, and I'm completely with that and completely agree with that. So if we get this over the line towards the end of the season, I just think that will completely shift everybody's sort of inner line doubts. Maybe it even frees up a little bit more freedom over the summer window and over the summer sort of, then the transition over the summer sort of thing. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I think there has been a lot of toxicity, it's fair to say, about the new signings, the money, and Hertzler, obviously. And I think it's a little unfair on Hertzler because some haven't really given him a chance since the beginning. I mean, I agree with you when you say it wasn't really his job in the first place because we wanted McKenna. We wanted, I think there was links with Slot at one point, even
Yeah,
before.
I think there
because
was.
there was
When Liverpool come call him, he said no chance.
There was links in like obviously February, March when De Zerbi was being linked to other clubs. So we must have been sniffing around for a new manager because Tony Bloom's always
Steps ahead
planning.
Right? Yeah,
and Slot had previously visited the training ground as well.
Oh, really? I didn't even know that myself.
When De Zerbi was in charge, yeah. And he was very complimentary of the club and how we run things, basically.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, no, going back to Hertz, so I think he can prove it's his job. I think next season is the season to prove that.
It would be interesting over the summer as well, before we even think about next season, because if you do get Europe, it gives you a whole real pre-season of saying, right, this is what we want to do. What exactly, that's where I think we should be, and I think that's why I want to build so much on this season.
Yeah.
And I'm so in my head thinking, please get Europe for the base level of forgetting anything else, but just keep hold of some of our key players, give them a bit more incentive to want to stay one more year. Whether it'd be enough to keep hold of Mitoma or not, I don't know. But I'll just touch on finally a couple of the players you mentioned in terms of the young players, because I agree with actually the transition of players, because particularly Brian Gruder, but we've seen it in the past as well with Julio Enciso, with Facundo Buonanotte, where we sign players and they actually don't come good for about 6 months. We have to sort of, even more. And some of them Caicedo went on loan for a good portion of time, do you remember? So we have to go through that with these players. And Brian Gruder's goal the other day was absolute proof of everything that these players have to go through.
The fact he broke down in tears as well.
Broke down in tears. You could see he was visibly very, very, he was completely overwhelmed by it, completely. And I just thought that's exactly what Brighton can do.
Yeah.
We can bring in players, we can completely change the trajectory of their careers.
Yeah.
And I thought Gruder's was a perfect moment for him. It'll be interesting to see how he kicks on. I still think obviously he's got a lot more learning to do, but I think definitely in the last couple of weeks we've seen a complete change in Brian Gruder, probably.
Yeah, and he's been picking up goal involvements. But my question is, what happens with Gruder, Buonanotte and Ciso next season? And Ciso's only got a year left on his deal. He's had a very, very good loan spell at Ipswich, and I think he's matured a little bit.
Yeah.
And then Ciso's talent is worth building a team around, definitely. Buonanotte, you saw his goal the other day. He must have such a talented player, and he's got more of a sort of athletic vibe about him rather than Ciso. He just wants to pick up the ball, run at players.
Yeah.
He's not particularly fast.
Buonanotte gives me sort of, I don't want to say messy vibes because that's what I'm saying.
I'm saying that. Literally.
He's got he's got an ability to turn without touching the ball.
It's just the way he runs. It's identical to Messi.
That's what I mean. He's got a way of not just the close control. It's not even just close control. It's the way he moves.
Yeah.
It's so Argentine. Right. He just got that little dribbling. Yeah. I don't know how to explain it, but I can tell you what I mean. Just watch him. Watch Facundo Buonanotte run and you'll see what I mean. He's got that little ability to just move without touching the ball. He can send players left and right. And I think that's quite a rare talent to have. I think you don't just get that in players, which is what I'd quite like to see what he could do with, maybe a full-on role here, particularly down the middle. I think when we're forcing him out wide was very ineffective. It's quite disappointing with how it's gone at Leicester. I'm happy for him in the sense of he's got a bit more experience. He's experienced a club that's obviously going down. He's seen the bad, right, in this country. But also, I don't know, I feel like I'd have liked to see him where he's actually starring every single week because Leicester fans even say it's only because of the fallout of Van Nistelrooy.
And what happened if Cooper stayed? Because Cooper was Buonanotte was Cooper's star boy.
Yeah.
And he was starting week in, week out and getting goal involvements. And then, he gets sacked. And to be honest, I thought that was the wrong decision because Cooper was getting results.
No, Cooper was actually genuinely better than Van Nistelrooy.
And he had a relegation success on his CV as well. So the fact they got rid of him, I thought was a very weird decision. And then obviously that's taken a toll on Facundo's season. And then every time he has played, every time I've watched his cameos, he's been impressive.
He has,
Van Nistelrooy just seems to prefer El Canus, and don't get me wrong, he's a very, very talented player, El Canus.
So he's linked with us as well, actually. Just Twitter hearsay, probably.
I like him, but we've got enough attacking midfielders. And he's getting Ayew the start of a Buonanotte.
Yeah.
What can you do at that point?
Yeah. It's weird. I think it was a fallout. I believe The Athletic reported it.
I heard, yeah.
It's a complete shame, but it is what it is. It would be good to have him back. I think the club tried to get him back in January, but it just obviously didn't come through for whatever reason, which is a shame again. You know, it'd been nice to see even him have a little bit of a run in here. Potentially rotating with Brian Gruder could have been a really nice way. I see a difference in, say, Gruder to Buonanotte in the same way I see a difference between Enciso and Buonanotte. I think of three, I still think Buonanotte is the most different, probably. I think I think Julio's got such a high ceiling if he wants it. Facundo has a really natural, rare talent. And I think Gruder, he gives me regen knockout vibes, sort of thing.
I hear it, yeah.
I'm literally just going on football vibes at this point, like what I see and how I feel about the player. So they're all different in certain aspects, but of course, there's only 2 or 3 attacking positions on the football pitch for them to occupy. They can't all play here. I think, I don't want to do this to you, but if you were to start, bench, sell the 3 of them, what are you doing? Because it is probably going to be a case of one of them will probably have to go.
I was going to say, yeah.
That's a horrible question.
That's awful.
I'm sorry.
Talent-wise, starting Ciso, to be honest. I don't think there's any doubt about that. He's got some of the best ball striking ability in the world.
Yeah, he does.
Unbelievable. Bench. Why you got this to me?
Well, you're going to have to sell.
Bench loan.
I don't see Gruder accepting a loan now, based on how he's broke into the team late into the season.
Buonanotte.
And I don't see Buonanotte bothering. He'll just say, well, I can start somewhere.
Yeah, but he'll look at what happened at Leicester and be,
true.
Look, if this happens, am I still going to be starting?
Yeah.
Am I still going to be that significant? And Buonanotte, he has just spent a season on the bench.
Yeah.
And he's done well when he's played, as I've said. So he's going to want to start. Can we offer him that starting position with Rutter, with O'Reilly?
Forget about Georgie. Oh my gosh. I forgot he existed.
Even Pedro, who knows? Honestly, is he going to stick around? I can't see it. And do I want him to stick around? Probably. But it's a difficult one with Pedro. And I feel like I'm going to get accused of an agenda, no matter what I say here. But I think Pedro's just a free sort of 70, 80 mil just sitting there.
Yeah.
To be honest. And we're better with Georgie. I'm putting you on the spot here as well, so.
Thing is with Zhao, I think he could go down as one of the most underrated players in terms of his impact to this football club ever.
Absolutely.
Because I think the goals he's brought to this club and the moments he's brought to this club, I think only he could replicate in this squad and even on loan. I'll go that far. I don't think any player that we've got on loan or in this squad has the big game gene that he does.
Yeah.
But I get what you mean in terms of consistent attitude, maybe, which we've been reported. I'm not saying he does, but we do see bits and pieces where you would suggest, maybe he thinks he's there before he's there.
Yeah.
Who knows, right? But yeah, the red card is visual evidence of saying, that was stupid, Zhao. Why'd you do that? Of course, he's back this weekend. He's gotten a chance to really dig us out of the mud. But I do get what you mean in terms of Jorginho maybe has a little bit more to bring to the team. I think his overall work rate is insane, but then so is João Pedro's. And I think that's underrated. I think his last game that he really played was the City game before was it City? I can't remember. I will use City as an example because it's come to mind, but I just remember he covered every blade of grass that day. And he has done a lot in the past. But I do get what you mean. I think I wouldn't be able to decide between the two of them, but I think if you were to lose one, not through choice, but I could see it being João Pedro in terms of the host of clubs that would probably be after him.
I think naturally where the game's going as well, it's more athlete-based, and especially in Hertzler's system where he demands intensity and pressing, there's no one better than Georgie, essentially. So, again, I think he's just a free 80 mil just sitting there that we can go and splash in the summer. But that's not me saying I want him to leave by any means. He's like, words can't explain what he's done for this football club, the moments that he's given us.
Yeah.
So
We'll see.
It's difficult.
So the actual answer to the question was who? Facundo.
Oh God, back to
Start.
this.
Well, I mean, it was for start. You said you're starting Ciso. You would
because of his talent. There's no one, honestly, no one like him. If again, like you say, if he wants to be, he can be top. World. I want to say world class. He's shown elements of what he can do.
He's got some world class ability.
Yes. And the way he takes players on, he goes through 2, 3, 4 players that they're not there, and it's frustrating because likely we're going to lose him this summer because he has a year left on his deal. How much would you sell him for, considering he's got a year left on his deal?
I don't know. I'm not even going to tout him because if I do, then I want a hefty fee on top of that. Yep. But no, I don't know. I don't think we will. Oh, I don't know. I feel like if anyone's going to go, unfortunately, it will be on Ciso. That's for me.
There's going to be some difficult decisions made this summer. Maybe not popular, but about the club, innit?
Yeah, I think so. I think I will put my trust in the club for that. But unfortunately, that is the position you're in. And we've got a lot of attacking players, and we've got a lot of players that want the same position that can start in other clubs in the Premier League at the top level. I think Enciso will be one that could go. I would like to see him stay, if I'm honest, Pedro, personally. I know I can understand why people are frustrated with him, but for me, I just don't think you want to lose a big game player in your squad if you can. I think if you've got a combination of all of them fit together, I think you've got one of the best attacks in the league by far, one of the most dynamic attacks in the league by far. Bringing in Stefan Simas as well in the summer, it's going to be interesting. So we're just building, I think, and I want to see us to continue to build as opposed to talk about players that are going to leave. But we'll see what happens when Europe, if we can get Europe. So final thing of the podcast, Europe, yes or no?
Again, it's out of our hands. We'll just have to hope and pray on Fulham and Wolves, is it?
Is it Wolves playing? I don't even know.
Last day, I think. I'm
could be right.
90% sure. Let's just do our part and hope.
Win the games in front of us. That's all we can do. It's going to be a very difficult one, but we'll see what happens, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the episode.
It's been a pleasure being here.
We'll get you back on again, I'm sure.
I'd love to, yeah.
Look into the camera and say any plugs, anything you want. My phone over there, which is the elite cameras that we've got here.
So you got my Twitter, or 2 Twitter accounts, MJ Avery and Mayri Talks Football, I think. I don't even know my own. I started it recently and just waffle about random European players, basically.
Nice.
TikTok, Mayri Football. Subscribe to Talk Seagulls.
Love that. See, that's the good bit at the end. No, I'm joking. Make sure you follow all of his socials, of course. Follow Talk Seagulls. Come to Earth and Stars here. There's going to be a lot more stuff with Earth and Stars, so make sure you keep an eye out on their website and go on their Instagram as well. They've got a bunch of different offers and whatever else is going on here. So plenty of stuff to get into. Subscribe, all that good stuff. And we'll see you hopefully after a huge win against Liverpool. Oh my God. Up the Albion. And goodbye. Thank you.